To regard these prefatory explanations as sufficient for understanding is to misunderstand the very nature of philosophical inquiry. Philosophy does not offer its truths in pre-packaged form. It demands engagement with its unfolding, its contradictions, and its progression through necessary stages. Treating its purposes and results as definitive truths divorced from their development reduces philosophy to a static artifact, stripping it of its dynamic and living character. This reduction is not merely a misunderstanding, but an evasion, a way to avoid the challenges posed by genuine philosophical inquiry while preserving the appearance of thoughtful reflection. Moreover, the satisfaction derived from such superficial explanations is often deceptive. It offers the comfort of clarity and the illusion of mastery, but it fails to provide the deeper understanding that comes from grappling with philosophy's complexity. This satisfaction is not the reward of genuine insight, but the product of intellectual complacency, a preference for easy answers over the hard work of thought. Such an approach ultimately undermines the very purpose of philosophy, which is to challenge, provoke, and expand our understanding, rather than to provide neatly packaged solutions. True understanding of a philosophical text requires more than familiarity with its stated aims or its distinction from other works of the age. It demands an immersion in its method, a willingness to follow its progression and engage with its contradictions. Only through this process can one apprehend the unity of purpose, method, and result that defines philosophy as a pursuit of truth. Any approach that circumvents this process may appear serious, but it avoids the real substance of philosophy, reducing it to an empty formalism that betrays the very effort it pretends to make. The essence of any philosophical inquiry is not exhausted by its purpose alone, for purpose in isolation is a static and lifeless abstraction. Nor can the final result, taken by itself, be regarded as the actual whole. The true nature of a philosophical work lies in the unity of its result and the process of its becoming, a unity that reveals itself only through the unfolding of its internal movement. Purpose, when stripped of the dynamic process that brings it to realization, becomes a barren universal, devoid of the vitality that makes it meaningful. Similarly, a mere tendency or inclination, no matter how ambitious, remains an empty striving until it is actualized through a coherent progression. Philosophy, therefore, cannot be reduced to a snapshot of its goals or outcomes. To focus solely on the purpose of a philosophical endeavor is to misunderstand its living character, for the purpose without its execution is like a seed that never germinates, a potentiality that remains unrealized. Likewise, to treat the result as the entirety of the philosophical whole is to mistake the end point of a journey for the journey itself. The bare result, considered in isolation, is nothing but the lifeless remains of the process that produced it. It is a corpse, stripped of the vitality and movement that gave it meaning. The process, far from being incidental or secondary, is the lifeblood of philosophy, the dynamic activity through which the universal and particular, the abstract and concrete, are brought into unity. This distinction is vital to understanding the nature of truth as revealed through philosophical inquiry. Truth is not a static object to be grasped in isolation, but a living totality realized through a dialectical movement in which contradictions are resolved and the particular is integrated into the universal. The process of becoming is not a mere preparatory stage leading to the result. It is an essential component of the result itself. Without this process, the result is hollow, a mere residue of thought, rather than the culmination of a dynamic and organic unfolding. The relationship between purpose, process, and result is analogous to the stages of growth in a living organism. The seed holds within it the potential for the fully grown plant, yet the plant cannot be understood merely by examining the seed or even the mature form. Its life and essence are found in the stages of its development, in the growth of its roots, the emergence of its stem and leaves, the flowering and fruiting that fulfill its potential. To separate the result from the process is to sever the plant from its life, leaving behind only a static and lifeless form. In the same way, philosophical truth cannot be adequately captured by isolating its results from the process that gave rise to them. Each stage of this process, each moment of striving, contradiction, and resolution is essential to the whole. The purpose provides the direction, the process brings it to life, and the result integrates and transcends both, forming a totality that is greater than the sum of its parts. To ignore this interplay is to reduce philosophy to a dead artifact, stripped of the dynamic and self-revealing activity that constitutes its essence. Thus, the matter of philosophy is not found solely in its aims or conclusions, but in the living movement that unites them. The process is not ancillary, it is central, for it is through the process that purpose becomes actualized and result attains its truth. The challenge of philosophy is to embrace this movement in its entirety, recognizing that the truth is not in the end point alone, but in the path that leads there, a path that breathes life into purpose and gives meaning to the result. Similarly, distinctions, while seemingly integral to understanding, merely serve as the boundaries of the matter at hand. They mark where the matter ends, where its influence ceases, or what it is not. Such distinctions, while useful in drawing lines between concepts, entities, or ideas, fail to penetrate the substance of the matter itself. They define limits, but do not reveal essence. This superficial engagement is symptomatic of a broader tendency in intellectual efforts that prioritize purposes, results, or evaluations of one thing in relation to another. Though these efforts may appear demanding, they are far easier than they initially seem, for they do not require the labor of engaging with the inner workings of the matter. Instead, they remain at a safe distance, operating on the surface rather than delving into the depths. The reason for this ease lies in the nature of such activity. To concern oneself with purposes or results, or with distinctions and comparisons, is to adopt a position external to the subject. This external stance allows the individual to observe and classify without the necessity of immersion, without the transformative act of losing oneself in the object of inquiry. Such activity remains detached, holding the matter at arm's length while maintaining a sense of control and autonomy. The knowledge gained in this manner is partial and abstract, for it avoids the difficult yet essential task of dwelling within the matter, of allowing the mind to become so thoroughly engaged with its object that it begins to think and develop from within.